Magnus Carlsen calls him the greatest of all time, Garry Kasparov. He seemed invincible after 15 years of holding the world crown. 80 points better rated than Kramnik before their world championship match. Winning tournaments easily with his attacking style and strong opening preparation. But he wasn't ready for Kramnik's Berlin defense. It starts after e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6 and bishop b5, so Ruy Lopez. Then the most common reply, as it was today, was a6, forcing bishop to decide whether it wants to go back, and typically it does, to a4, or it wants potentially to take the knight. Now, that's not what happened in their specific game. What happened was knight to f6. You can imagine Kasparov's surprise. This was the first time someone has played it since 1886 in the World Championship match, and this was the year 2000. This structure does remind of Petrov defense with e4, e5 pawns and knights on f3 and f6. Berlin defense and Petrov's defense are reliable drawing weapons at elite level. And what you see increasingly at the top is players switching away from e4 to avoid them. Sindarov in the 26 candidates is a recent example. He played e4 in round 2, got a draw against the Petrov, and then avoided e4 till securing the tournament win. It is so different versus beginner level, where most kids play e4 because they like sharp and attacking positions. The game continues with a castling by white, and that is already an important decision, and I'll come to that in a second. What black does then is take the free pawn, of course, and white opens in the center with d4. Black retreats with a knight, white takes the other knight, doubles the pawns from black, and then white simply takes the e5 pawn. Now obviously the black knight has to move, and what happens is a queen exchange and king that cannot castle anymore on the black side. To an untrained eye, this seems like white is doing amazing, but it is not the case. The position is as drawish as it gets, and it even got the name Berlin Wall endgame that comes after this. The Berlin defense was first formally recommended in a chess handbook published in Berlin in 1843, therefore the name. But I told you that castling was already an important decision from white. Let me show you why. So let's get a few moves back now and look at that position before the castling. If white castles, as you saw a second ago, there is a forced variation, almost forced, which leads into queen exchange and a very drawing endgame. But white can instead do something different, and white can play actually d3. Kramnik was mentioning that he was surprised that Kasparov didn't bring it up in game 1 nor in the game 3, where they repeated the same type of opening. The d3 is known since 19th century, and even Steinitz played it, but it is not really the most popular continuation. It just prevents the queen's exchange and therefore keeps it a little bit less drawish. Getting back now to the game position after the queen exchange. Kasparov continues with knight to c3, and then Kramnik starts showing what he and his team have been preparing all along. Bishop to d7 was a move that was not known at the time. It was a theoretical novelty. So from this point on, Kasparov needs to figure it out. He does not know the theory. They continue, and then there is another move that is completely new. In the past, it was more common for king to walk towards e8. But Kramnik and his team prepared hiding the king on the queen side instead. Now look at this position. Few days later, they have played game 3 and repeated precisely the same 11 moves. It didn't seem possible for Kasparov to prepare anything different that would lead him into a more attacking, into a better position. They continue playing and developing their pieces into better positions right now. And what you can see is a little bit of knight rerouting, a little bit of pawn pushes, and this is how the game continues. And now we are getting to another critical point in here. With h4, Kramnik locks the king side, and this is where Kasparov was supposed to have a majority and do something about it. Now, after this move, it is very difficult for him to progress and break through. But there is another very important point in here, and that is that being out prepared, Kasparov is at only 37 minutes. At the moment where he's supposed to think about a middle game and figure out a plan, he spent all of his time on figuring out how to play the opening he didn't know. The master of opening preparation was out-prepared here. They continued trying to break through, each for another 7 moves, but there was never anything in there, and the engine even estimates the whole position as drawn the whole time. After 7 moves in move 25, they have agreed a draw. Then Kasparov lost in round 2 with his Grünfeld, and then got another draw with white against Berlin defense in round 3. He never recovered. Berlin defense made his main weapon e4 useless, and that was the turning point. Kasparov was not able to win a single game, the first time since the match Lasker Capablanca in 1921 that a world champion failed to score a win in a title match. Final result was Kramnik got the title with 2 wins, 0 losses and 13 draws. Number of draws has escalated in the last decades. I can think of 2 things against the Berlin defense and draws in general. One in the proper chess manner, someone finding a refutation and a reliable way how to break it. Move d3 helps a bit, but it's still very drawish. Soccer or international football faced the same problem decades ago. Draws had been rising since the 1960s, and teams had no real incentive to chase a win, because a victory was worth exactly the same as 2 draws. England changed that in 1981, awarding 3 points for a win instead of 2. FIFA adopted the system in the 1990s. 1 rule change, fewer draws. Maybe something to think about.